What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. My name is Jaya, and everything we talk about on this channel is bookish and for everyone who is a fiction addict like myself. Welcome to this little corner of the internet. My name is Jaya, and I can't wait to talk all things books with you. It's reading time here at JBay's Corner. Today we're actually going to be discussing what I read in a week. I love doing these videos as like little check-ins because I just think it's so much fun to talk about a book when it's fresh on your mind. And then when we do the reading wrap-ups at the end of the month, I think it's just really great to revisit those same books and wonder whether or not you feel the same way you felt about them in that moment after you've had some time to reflect on them. So that's really why I really enjoy doing these videos. For those of you that are new here, I put out videos every Wednesday and Sunday on primarily bookish related content with a little bit of random mixed in here and there. If that sounds like it's up your alley, then definitely continue hanging out and checking this out, and would love to have you as part of the community. For those of you that are returning, thank you so much for being here. It's been such a joy to create this little community with us and just talk all things books. I think the beauty of books in general is just the fact that you get to experience so many different worlds and you get to think from so many different perspectives and you get to put on so many hats in the same way that you get to do when you watch a movie or a TV show, but you have even more imagination available to you because every single word that you read, you create that own little world in your mind. And I think especially in the trying times that we're going through right now, it's an absolutely wonderful time to get lost in another world. That being said, this month specifically is primarily dark academia focused, very book related and kind of the introduction moving into fall. So if that sounds like it's your genre, stick around. So let's talk about our books. The first one that I wanted to share with you guys that I ended up getting through is Their Vicious Games by Joelle Wellington. This book was so good, so highly entertaining. I did not expect such a murderous book for a young adult novel. I will preface by saying I assumed this was going to be more dark academia, but it ended up being more competition vibes. So I was a little surprised by that. But the premise of the book is basically that there is a woman who is about to start college. She's finishing up high school. Her grades have been perfect. She was accepted into an Ivy League school. She lives in the suburbs with a bunch of rich people around her, and she just wants to make it in life. She is also of African-American descent, and so that kind of sets her apart from her peers. And she's kept her head down this entire time as she's rode it through high school. At the beginning of this book, she really thinks, everything is going to work in her favor. And then all of a sudden she loses everything. She gets into a cat fight with someone at school. And because of the violence that ensues because of that, she ends up losing her seat. So now she's between a rock and a hard place. She doesn't really know what to do with herself. So she decides that she is going to try to gain her credibility back and basically reclaim everything that she has had for herself by entering into an exclusive competition that is held by a family known as the Remingtons. The Remingtons basically invite individual ladies to compete in this particular, what they like to kind of make sound like a competition for success. So essentially you show up, you compete, and if you're the winner at the end of the day, all the doors become open to you. You can choose to go into any school that you want. You have inaccessible exorbitant amounts of money. You also have ties to a lot of the elite in society. And so she kind of gets thrown into this opportunity a little shockingly, and she decides that she's going to go forward with the competition because she really wants to get her life back. What she doesn't realize, though, as she's entering into this competition, is that it's literally a competition of life or death. And so a lot of the women that have joined into this competition slowly start to die, and she just has to figure out how to survive. As far as the romance component of this book, you kind of have a small love triangle going on, but it's definitely a subplot in the novel. The focus of the book is definitely more about survival and just making it through to the end. I think part of the reason also why I really enjoyed this book is just that our female character is very intelligent, very wily, very capable, and that was really pleasant to read. And she's really in circumstances where a lot of people would just fold in on themselves and give up, and she doesn't. And I think that was was a really fun plotline to read. Overall, there's a perfect amount of sarcasm, of, dry humor, and just horror thriller vibes with sorority girls that keeps this book moving forward and is very enjoyable about it. The closest thing that I could describe it to in terms of television is Scream Queens. So if anyone has ever watched Scream Queens, this is that in a book. Would definitely recommend for a fun, fast-paced read, but I was a little bit sad that it wasn't quite the dark academia that I was looking for. The next two books that I wanted to talk about were The Coven and The Cursed. This is part of a trilogy, with the third book should be releasing sometime this year. I want to say that it's coming out right around end of September, beginning of October timeframe. This series is basically following this young woman who is a witch, and she has been groomed her entire life to avoid the Coven. Now, the thing about the Coven is this is the last group of witches within a lineage of 13 families that basically gain their magic and their control from the earth and the source of the earth and all life forms. So meaning that they have magical powers that are either associated to the earth, the sky, the wind, that type of thing, crystals, like all these different natural elements, as well as passion. The only thing is that in this book, all of the witches derived their power because of an ancestor named Charlotte Hecate, who ended up striking a deal with the devil during the time of the Salem witch trials. She was about to be killed for the Salem witch trials, and she decides that if they're going to basically murder her on the premises of her being a witch, well, then she was going to damn well make sure that she was a witch. Pardon my language there. That being said, she ends up striking a deal with the devil, and so for the magical powers that she is granted, he also creates vessels that can only be sustained with the blood of witches. They are essentially vampires, but they're bodies that host demons within them. So now we have demons walking the earth, and we also have witches walking the earth. The witches hate the demons hate the witches, but essentially the vampire demons and the witches must work together for their entire survival. During the course of all of this, somewhere along the way, 50, 60 years down the road, there ends up being, 500 years down the road, there ends up being a massacre that occurs. And basically Charlotte's specific line, which is a line of necromancers, ends up going missing. And so at this point, the Coven, which is basically the original 13 families, surviving members who are the head of the witch circle, if you will, or the witch senate, I guess. They are at a loss as to how to replenish their power. So they basically decide that after 50 years since the incident occurred with the massacres, they're going to reopen a school. Now, the school headmaster happens to be the vessel, quote unquote, in charge, and he in turn works with the Coven for the greater good of both of their species to try to get the school up and running. That's when we get introduced to our main female character, Willow, who is basically recruited into the school against her will in order to be trained as a witch. Now, little do they realize when they go to find her that she's already been trained in the old magical ways by her mother, who was also a witch, and her father had a second bloodline that was passed on to her that they are unaware of, that only she knows about. And basically she is trained by her father to want revenge for their family, and she basically goes into the school as a double agent trying to take the Coven down. So that's basically the vibes of this book. It does feel more dark academia, but it also feels a little bit spooky. So I would say it's definitely spooky season vibes. I would say October, great reads. I actually enjoyed these books quite a bit. One other thing I will mention, it's an enemies to lovers type of plot line, and it does have a lot of spice in it. This book I would say was a solid 3.5 spice. So if you're not into spice, definitely don't pick these books up. But they are quick, they're fun, they're fast-paced reads. So the Coven basically ends on a cliffhanger, and that's where The Cursed picks up from. Unfortunately, I can't talk too much about The Cursed without giving away The Coven, which would defeat the purpose of reading these books, but I can genuinely say I enjoyed both quite a bit. The Coven was a solid 4-star read for me, and The Cursed was about a 3 to 3.5, and I definitely see myself waiting for the final book in the series to be dropped. So if you guys are into that kind of stuff, witches, magic, devils, demons, and all that kind of stuff, morally gray area, male characters, villains will burn the world down to save their love, that type of thing. Great books to read, and definitely has more of that atmospheric vibe and more of that dark academia that we may be looking for during the dark academia period. The other book that I ended up reading this month is Gothikana. Now this was, I would say, of all of them, a true dark academia novel. It has all of the essential things that you would look for. So you have it taking place in a school. You have it taking place with iffy supervision, if you will, in terms of having adults that you can turn to. You have murder occur in this book, and you have a main character who is a little bit misunderstood, and you have questions of the human psychology in this book. So I think, like, atmospherically, this was the most dark academia book of all the books that I read this week. I absolutely adored Gothikana. This was a solid 4-star read for me. Again, there is spice in this book, and again, it is kind of a not enemies to lovers. It's more like forbidden love, I guess I would say, because it's a student and a teacher, but he's not really a teacher. She is 24 in this book and he is 28. He is a PhD student who also happens to be teaching courses, and she is a late bloomer that got accepted into the school later on in life, and that's why she's still an undergrad and he's a PhD or whatever, but their age difference is actually not that great, and they're all of legal age and all that kind of stuff. But as far as the premises of this book goes, basically this woman, Corvana, gets invited to come and study at Gothikana, and she was not expecting to be invited to this school. So, sorry, not Gothikana. She was invited to Varenmore. That's what it's called, University of Varenmore, in order to study. She's never had the opportunity to do so before. She was raised by a single mother who also happens to be a schizophrenic, and so therefore she didn't have the most normal upbringing. There are some moments where you can even say that she was neglected, and so she's never had the opportunity to come out of that. At the beginning of this book, we find out that her mother is now in a care home kind of situation, and so she's kind of on her own, and she decides against, everything, that she's going to go and study at the school. So she gets there and she finds out that one of the mysteries about this location is that once every 5 years on a specific time of the moon, there are people that have gone missing. And this has been happening for years. There's multiple murders that are discussed in this book. And during the beginning of this book, we find out that the girl who she's sharing rooms with, the roommate that was previously there, is one of the girls that has disappeared. And then there's also suspicion that more people are going to disappear. We do have murders that happen throughout this book. There's a lot of atmospheric writing in this book. The overall romance in this book was also very entertaining to read. And also just the character development of both Carvana as well as Vad, who is the main male character in this book, was very fun to read. It definitely has more of a gothic vibe to it, so I will preface it with that too. And again, a little bit of a hint at the supernatural and spirit realms. But I would say overall, this book was absolutely entertaining, and I definitely found myself enjoying it quite a bit. This ended up being a solid 4-star read for me, and I would definitely say it's perfect if you're looking to pick up a good dark academia book, or if you're looking for an October spooky read vibes. It'll fit both of those seasons quite well. The last book that I want to talk about in this video is this guy, If He Had Been With Me. This is by Laura Nowlin, and it is basically a coming of age book. Now, this is not quite dark academia, and it doesn't quite fit into the dark academia theme, but I wanted a book that was a little bit lighter, still appropriate for back to school vibes and kind of transitioning into that dark academia feel. So I thought a good coming of age book sounded perfect. Now, going into this book, you already know it's going to be sad. You know, it deals with a lot of teenage things that can be triggers. For example, negligence, parental negligence is, I guess, what I'm trying to say, suicide, cheating, all these kinds of things. So there's crazy things that are discussed in this book. You also have like identity development that's starting to happen, but essentially it's following the story of a young girl and a young boy who have been neighbors forever. Their mothers are best friends, and they've kind of been besties forever, and then all of a sudden they end up in different cliques in high school, and their relationship slowly starts to get pushed further and further apart, and now they don't know how they fit into each other's lives, but secretly there's still a lot of admiration and a lot of love that they carry for the other person. So while they're trying to navigate their various social cliques and the expectations that are there of them, they're also trying to redefine their own relationship. On top of that, there's also discussion of teenage depression, mental disorders, things like that. So it is a pretty heavy book, but it's done in a very beautiful way. I think the author did a wonderful job of capturing these characters in this book, and I think the descriptions that were used to kind of share the stories of what these characters are going through was also very well done. Overall, I think this was a very, very sweet book, and I ended up giving it a 3.5 stars. I do think that I will be picking up the sequel to this book, which is basically taking place after where the previous book left off, meaning where this book ended, and just watching our character pick herself up from the end of the events with this book and move into the next stage of her journey. It does capture concepts of concepts of grief, recovery from that grief, as well as just the normal things that teenagers go through as they're trying to find their sense of self and the various traumas that they experience along the way, as well as all the beautiful things they experience along the way that help shape them as individuals. I definitely feel like this was a very sweet read. I can see why it's been published under so many different covers and had so much attention over the course of the years, because it truly is a beautiful novel. But it's definitely not dark academia. So if you guys are looking for a fun, happy beach read, that's definitely not this. But it's also not quite dark academia. I think it's perfect for end of summer, beginning of school vibes, where the weather and the atmosphere is starting to become a little bit heavier, but it's still like something where you want something light and breezy and easy transitionally. This is a great book for that. It is very emotional, it is very beautiful, and it's just a fun, fast-paced read, and it is written for teenagers, so it does have that kind of young adult vibe to the book, but definitely worth the read, definitely worth picking up. Also, I ended up getting this special edition copy, and I'm absolutely obsessed with it. I love the fact that this doesn't have a cover, and all of these things are printed on to the book itself, and just this color sway I think was so perfect for fall. Overall, great read, and I'm so thankful to have the collector's edition, and I can't wait to jump into the next book. And that's all I have today. If you guys made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here. I love all things books, as I had mentioned earlier on at the beginning of the video. So sharing feedback on the various books that I get to read and just building this reading community means the world to me. If you guys have happened to read any of these books, or you do have them on your TBR, definitely let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you thought of them. If this has inspired you to add books onto your TBR, then definitely let me know that too. If there's a specific genre of fiction that you guys would like me to read and give commentary on, or specific authors that you guys want me to read, leave me comments about that too, because this is definitely a back and forth kind of vibe that we're going for here. I absolutely love creating this reading community, and it means the world to me. For those of you that are new, once again, thank you for watching this video. If you made it to this point, thank you. Definitely consider hitting that subscribe button and that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future content. If you did enjoy it here, I put out videos every Wednesday and Sunday on primarily bookish related content. For those of you that are returning, once again, thank you so much, so much for being here with me and helping me as I create this journey of curating this community of bookish lovers and bookish readers and bookish activists, because that's really what we're trying to do here, and it means the world to me that you're here. Wherever you are, whether it's morning, evening, or night, I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will definitely catch you guys on the next video. Bye, guys.